Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Knowing Your Options, Introducing the Part C Family Dispute Resolution Guides and Resources. A few technical notes. You can enter any questions or comments into the questions section of your control panel. CADRE staff will be attending to those throughout the webinar. There will be time at the end of the presentation for answering questions. Today's presentation will be archived and available on the CADRE website at the link on the slide. And we would be most appreciative if you would take a few minutes at the end of this presentation to fill out a short evaluation survey. I'm Melanie Reese, the Director of CADRE, the Center for Appropriate Dispute Resolution and Special Education, and today I'm honored to be joined by Miriam Alizo.
Good afternoon, I am Miriam Alizo. I am on the Center for Parent Information and Resources, the CIPR housed at SPAN. The CIPR provides Parent Center with information and resources to assist culturally and linguistically diverse families of children with disabilities across geographic regions in the nation. I also work on the RAISE Center, which is, we work with the 7 Rehabilitation Service Administration funded parent training and information centers to develop and disseminate information and resources that increase their capacity to serve youth and young adults with disabilities and their families.
Thank you, Miriam. In July of 2013, OSEP issued a comprehensive Q&A document that provides information to facilitate appropriate dispute resolution on IDA procedures, which includes state complaints, mediation, due process hearings, and resolution meetings. Because the Q&A document was very technical and long, OSEP asked CADRE to develop information more targeted to parents. In response, CADRE, in partnership with OSEP, developed 4 Part B parent guides, seen here. These guides are available in multiple languages and can be ordered directly from CADRE. Today, we're bringing the companion guides for Part C families to you. This chart compares the activity in Part B with the activity in Part C. As you can see, dispute resolution activity in Part C is considerably less than the activity we see in Part B, which makes examining trends over a period of time very difficult. However, just because there's low activity does not diminish the importance of ensuring Part C families have the information that they need to access their dispute resolution procedural safeguards. This chart describes the Part C activity for the states and territories over a 3-year period. You can see that there's been a slight decrease in written state complaints and filed and reports issued over the previous year. Mediations requested, held, and ending in agreements rose over the past year. And finally, you can see that due process complaints and hearings fell over the previous year. In 2016, we saw 118 state complaints filed nationally, 96 reports issued, with 66 of those reports ending with findings of noncompliance. All of that activity in Part C took place in 46% of the states and territories. For mediation, in 2016, we saw 133 requests for mediation nationally, with 76 mediations held, resulting in 62 mediation agreements. All of these mediation activities took place in only 12% of states and territories. In 2016-17, for due process complaints, we saw 59 due process complaints filed nationally, with only 6 hearings held. 52 of the cases were resolved without a hearing. All of the activity took place in only 18% of the states and territories. As you can see, most of the dispute resolution activity occurs in a fraction of the states. And it's not advancing. With the positive reception and wide use of the Part B family guides, we move forward to meet the same need for Part C families. Our goal is to provide resources to explain in parent-friendly language the dispute resolution options available under Part C of the IDEA. Specifically, we have developed 4 family guides to explain parents' rights to engage in mediation, to file a written state complaint, or to file a due process complaint to request a hearing or resolve a dispute. Having been through this process before with the Part B guides, we were aware that this type of undertaking posed several challenges. As you're aware, the IDEA is a complicated law. One challenge was to balance the use of legal terminology and maintain general understanding. Another challenge was to ensure readability without compromising meaning. A final challenge was to explain complex processes in a user-friendly way. We know how complicated it is to explain parents' rights and having tools to share with families. We hope you find that these guides are useful, but please be aware that they are not a substitute for the actual IDEA. In an effort to make the material accessible, we have used different language than the IDEA, and every attempt has been made to communicate the same meaning. However, the IDEA is the law. Families should know that these guides are not a substitute for the law. The development of the guides was an iterative process and involved several CADRE staff, including Anita Ingalls, Marshall Peter, and myself, and Candace Hawkins. CADRE is very grateful to the tireless efforts of OSEP's Jennifer Wolsheimer and Lisa Pagano, ensuring our attempts to simplify the IDEA did not change the meaning or intent of the regulations. Lisa and Jennifer collaborated closely with CADRE, even traveling from DC to Oregon to work through these family guides, and ensured that the hours of phone calls were well attended and helped us so much as we picked through word by word many drafts. We're also grateful to Tina Diamond, our project officer, and to Carmen Sanchez for helping us determine the best path to get this information disseminated, and for encouraging our collaboration with CIPR. Once we had the 4 guides into a place where OSEP and CADRE were satisfied, we shared them with the following reviewers. For those of you who are part of the parent network, you'll recognize the names of very smart, uncompromising leaders who have personal traditions of letting you know exactly what they think. The feedback we received was insightful and challenged assumptions in the most beneficial way possible. Many thanks to Ed Feinberg, Miriam, Judy Sweat, Gretchen Godfrey of PACER, Adan Farah Muhammad of Open Doors for Multicultural Families, a CPRC in Washington State, Luz Hernandez from Philadelphia HUNE, a Pennsylvania CPRC, and Larry Ringer for his collaboration on the Part C collaboration guides. I want to express CADRE's deep appreciation to Sharon Walsh at the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center for the fine-tooth comb treatment that she gave all 4 guides. These products are all better because of the careful reading and feedback we received from all of our reviewers. We were delighted to receive extensive feedback, and once we had it, we entered into another demanding process of going through comments with our OSEP partners to figure out how best to integrate and reflect them in the final form. Every comment was weighed and considered. In the end, we reached a consensus on these 4 products. Our IDEA Early Intervention Dispute Resolution Family Guides are now ready to share with the world, and we couldn't be more excited to see them go out. The 4 guides are mediation, written state complaints, and 2 due process hearing procedure guides, one for states who follow Part C procedures for due process hearings, and one for states that have adopted Part B procedures for Part C due process hearings. Consistent with CADRE's commitment to promote early dispute resolution and collaborative problem solving, we've aimed to present the various processes factually and directly while simultaneously encouraging the building of collaborative relationships. Early non-adversarial options are presented in all of the guides for consideration. We hold that sharing information allows families to make informed decisions so that they can participate in fully resolving concerns about their children. About the guides, here are some features. Each of the guides are divided into sections. There will be a section for definitions of the process and examples of when it might be used. There will be sections to discuss the benefits of each of the processes, as well as things to take into consideration before and during the process. Additionally, our most popular feature in the Part B guides was the frequently asked questions, and we included them in this guide as well. And finally, we've included a preparation strategy section to guide parents on how to prepare effectively for each of the processes. We have included suggestions throughout the guides for where parents and families can seek additional information from their state lead agency, as well as their federally funded parent centers. We've included links to contact information, and even included a place for agencies to affix stickers to personalize the contact information for their agency. CADRE has developed a companion website for online access and where to find more information. That address is right here. On the website, users can find links to the PDFs of the guides, as well as locate additional information from the navigation bar. The website includes several resources to help clarify the guides. There is a section that covers these 11 commonly used terms. There is additional information about due process complaints and hearings that were just too cumbersome and too long to put into the guides themselves. So we include qualifications of hearing officers and parents' rights at due process hearings. Additionally, we've indicated the section to discuss what rules apply to your specific state. State procedures for due process complaints and hearings vary. There are those states who have adopted Part C due process hearing procedures and those who have not, and instead use the Part B procedures. Because these systems vary so much, it was necessary to have two different guides available. So we have a Part B guide for Part C due process complaints and a Part C guide for Part C due process complaints. If you're unsure which procedures your state has adopted, you can check on the website. There is a chart for you to look which rules apply to your state. You can see on the left here, there are states who have adopted Part B procedures for Part C due process complaints. On the right here, you can see that there are the Part C procedures for due process complaints and hearings. We've also indicated under Part B which states have a state-level review process for hearing decisions before going to federal or state court. We will do our best to keep these updated. However, we do encourage you to verify with your state education department which rules apply in your state. The procedures a state has adopted, whether they're Part C procedures or Part B procedures for Part C due process complaints, will affect who can file, what must be included in the due process request, the timelines for decisions, the time limits for filing a request for a hearing, whether there's a resolution meeting required, and there are other differences. So it is important to make sure that you have the right guide available for your families. Just like for Part B, we created a quick guide to distinguish between the different processes, including facilitation for those states who offer it. And you can find those on the website as well. The quick guide to Part C, dispute resolution processes, is available online only. The chart compares the dispute resolution processes side by side with other processes. The guide will briefly explain how the processes of facilitation, mediation, written state complaints, and due process hearings under Part C and Part B are different, what issues would be appropriate for each, who initiates each process, the probable outcome, what distinguishes each process, the benefits and considerations for each, where the decision is made, the role of the third party, the time frame, who is responsible for paying for the process, the impact on each process on relationships, and how to prepare for each. This chart might be helpful to keep nearby as a resource to quickly explain differences to families who may be in dispute. Now I'll turn it over to Miriam to talk about how you can use these guides.
Yeah, every state has a different lead agency, and the name of the early intervention program varies also from state to state. As a parent center or somebody who works in the field, it's important to learn if your state chose to develop a Part C system for due process complaints and hearings, or if it uses the Part B system already established in your state. Share this information with your families. For example, in Arizona, the early intervention lead agency is the Arizona Department of Economic Security. In New Jersey and Florida, the lead agency are the New Jersey Department of Health and the Florida Department of Health. But the name of the program in the states is also different. In New Jersey, it is called New Jersey Early Intervention System. And in Florida, it is called Early Steps. You could share the Part C guides with other stakeholders, such as Part C service providers, hospitals. It's important to find out when they have the community fairs, for example, and you can bring your resources and these CADRE guides. They can also be shared at community centers, early head starts. You may organize presentations to their staff about what your parent center does, and they can also be shared with child care centers. Next. Many parent center staff already use the Part B guides when they provide individual technical assistance to families. They give out to families as a resource to consider it in case they need it, either in person or via email. They also give them as a handout at basic rights and IP workshops. The Part C guides can be incorporated to the list of resources given to families. States have their own regulations, but these guides offer the federal guidelines. Parent centers provide technical assistance to districts too. Parent center staff also use the guides when providing TA, technical assistance to schools and other agencies. The guides are an excellent tool to share with parent groups, with CPACs, Special Education Parent Advisory Groups, and with the State Special Education Advisory Council, the state SEAC. Next. In conversations that I had with parent center staff from different regions, I was informed that some of them use the Part B guides developed by CADRE a few years ago as a handout when presenting on dispute resolution. Some reported that they also use them as a tool to create their own dispute resolution presentations. Many parent centers conduct IEP clinics on a regular basis. These tools can be handed during these events. Some parents might have children with IEPs, but also may have children receiving early intervention services. The guides can be used also to train new and old staff on current topics in dispute resolution. Parent centers could include a link to the Part C and Part B dispute resolution guides on their website. Okay. Next. Okay. Next slide.
It's up.
Oh, I don't think it advanced.
The short videos?
Right. The short videos.
It did. It's up,
Okay.
Mark.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, when talking with colleagues from different parent centers, in Part B, we realize that undocumented families don't typically use due process and written state complaints. It's not very well known. The most used procedural safeguard for families, especially for families who are undocumented, is mediation. So an effort is required to get parents familiarized with these dispute resolution options. When speaking with several parent center staff that work with Spanish-speaking populations, there was a consensus in the benefit of using short videos to explain complex concepts and following with interactive video, like a Q&A session in simple and plain language. Parent centers can do that with low technology, for example, using a smartphone. Also, a very common social media tool for Spanish-speaking families is known as WhatsApp. Many parents don't have computers or tablets, but most of them do have smartphones. WhatsApp is a very effective and popular tool to reach out to groups of immigrant parents. Another possibility is to invite and include parents that have gone through the process to share their stories using short videos.
Thank you, Miriam. Just to let everybody know, there was a question about where the presentation is available. It is available in the Dropbox and the handouts online. So dissemination activities, how are we going to get these out to folks? The 4 family guides are posted on the CADRE main page. The 4 family guides are posted on the CADRE website's main page. They were publicized on the CADRE caucus, a newsletter that goes out to about 5,200 people. They will be disseminated through the listserv. We have great support from other technical assistance centers in promoting these guides, and we have several opportunities to share these guides in upcoming presentations as well. The guides are currently being printed, and we'll be sending a few copies to PTACs, PTIs, CPRCs in the next few weeks. Right now, you can find the PDF versions to print on our website. These PDFs do meet accessibility requirements and can be posted directly to your websites. We do expect that the Spanish versions of the documents will be available by the end of the month. We recognize the need to print and disseminate hard copy versions, being very mindful of the continual digital divide and recognizing that some who may find these guides useful might not have access to computers and the documents online. So we will have them available in hard copy to send to lead agencies, parent centers, and SEAs upon request. Copies may be ordered through CADRE at this link.
All right. In general, the Part B guides were well written and they were easy to understand for parents. The same concept is applied to the Part C guides. When there was a part that was not clear as us as a team who reviewed the guides, or a section that might seem too technical for families, we, the review team, let Melanie and the CADRE team know our concerns, and they made the changes. Immigrant parents do trust parent centers, and they do come to us. Therefore, it is important for the parent center network to disseminate these tools with our families and encourage them to use them. We know as a fact that our family, the immigrant families, don't use due process, as I said before, especially if they are undocumented. It is very intimidating for them to have to hire an attorney, and even if the attorney is pro bono, it's intimidating for them because the situation could be frightening for the fear of deportation or the fear of losing some social services benefits. Immigrant families prefer mediation. It's the most amicable procedure. They don't know how to use the written complaint sometimes, but we can let them know that they can write it in their own language, and the Part C lead agency would translate it to English. The OSEP glossary is an excellent tool to come to a consensus when translating Part B and Part C terminology to Spanish. In addition to the dispute resolution options discussed on this webinar, we need to remind our families that IDEA contains the following procedural safeguards for families in the early intervention system. The prior written notice requires the system to provide families with advance notice of decisions and the reasons for those decisions. The use of primary language or mode of communication requires the early intervention system to communicate with families in their primary language whenever feasible to do so. The written consent requires that the early intervention system receive signed parental consent before moving forward with evaluations or providing services. Confidentiality and release of records prohibits the early intervention system from releasing information or records regarding early intervention without prior written consent from the parent. Examination of records by families allows families to access their early intervention records at any time. Equal partners in the decision-making indicates that families are equal members in the Individualized Family Service Plan team and share in the decision-making process along with the early intervention system. Accept or decline services without jeopardy allows families to reject some services and accept other services. In addition, it allows families to add services at a later date, if necessary. Here are just a few comments that CADRE received about the Part B guides in the review process. So we would like to share them with you. Some people say they did a great job of trying to make this stuff digestible by parents. Somebody else said, overall, it was easy to understand. I like the fact that it gives just enough information without being overwhelming, and that it refers to the parent center in your area for more information. And someone else said, I think it will be so helpful to have this document. We all know how hard it is to make this understandable and still consistent with the regs.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank everybody for your participation today. I see that there's at least one question in the chat box. Please let us know if you have anything you want to talk about. And it looks like we have a question. What are some good places to see trends and issues around Part C dispute resolution? Unfortunately, because there's such low activity in Part C, it's very difficult for us to identify major trends. In the second or third slide, we talked about trends over the last 3 years in terms of filings and agreements for mediation, numbers of written state complaints that were filed, and the decrease in due process activity. Other than that, I don't have anything extra to provide you in terms of trends for Part C. Miriam, do you have any suggestions or any ideas?
I would suggest for the Parent Center, people who are listening right now, to join the workspaces and to share those concerns on the workspaces that we have for parent centers. We have created groups for people to share information and concerns, and that would be a great way to do it.
Thank you.
It is on the parentcenterhub.org website. There is a section called the workspaces. And if you are parent center staff, you can join the workspaces and start joining groups and sharing and exchanging information about your concerns on this topic.
Miriam, this next question, I think probably you can answer. What role do you think service coordinators can do to inform parents of their due process rights?
Service coordinators to inform the parents about their rights.
Yeah, what role do you think service coordinators can do to inform parents of their due process rights?
It will be ideal if we parent centers would kind of partner with the providers, service coordinators, providers, and maybe train them on the rights of the parents and conduct some workshops in conjunction with them, inviting parents, because they have the parents and we have the information for the parents, so we can work with the professionals who work with the children receiving Part C services. So we also work with the families directly. We parent center staff, we train them on the rights. So it's important that to connect with those families. So if the service coordinators have them and they can direct the families to us, would be great. That's what parent centers do. We work with the families, we guide them, we help them navigate the systems. So we are here also to help those service coordinators.
Additionally, having available in your hand, or having service coordinators have available in their hand these guides should provide a way to talk about the material in parent-friendly language. So making sure that service coordinators have access to these documents should help in sharing information. Another question that's come up. Yeah, another question that's come up is our state has struggled to know how to manage a state complaint because they're so infrequent. Is this common? And what I can tell you is yes, they're uncommon, or they are indeed uncommon. Last year, for the 2015-16 data we just received, nationwide there were only 125 filings of state complaints. So because it's so infrequent, it is indeed difficult to be conversant in them and to have your systems well maintained. So yes, that is an issue. Again, by having these guides, we hope to bridge that gap of information for parents and families. Looking at other questions.
Yeah, part of the problem, I would say, that is so infrequent is because the time frame is so short. When parents realize that there is an issue or a need and the child could be 1, 2, when they are 3, they are exiting the system already. So we have little time to address those needs, and the parents have little time to realize that their needs are not being addressed as they are supposed to. So we, as parent center staff, we have these guides now, and it will help them. It will help us to kind of canalize those concerns when parents might not even realize that there is something going on. Now we have the tools to explain to them that they can do something about it when things are not going well.
Questions come up, Miriam. Do the presenters, that's you and me, think that this is important information for families to know because at a minimum, it helps families as they potentially transition to Part B? And I'd like to weigh in. Information is neutral. Information is important for people to have, regardless of where their child is in Part C or Part B. And so, in addition to knowing their rights under Part C, certainly this does prepare them to understand the bigger picture in Part B as well. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Miriam?
Yeah, I agree. Information is crucial here. With this information and for parent center staff, it's important to know what kind of procedures, if they belong to the Part C or the Part B, and to know where what kind of Part C they have, and you know, assist families, provide this information to the families when they go to the workshops, and create perhaps something specific for Part C, for the Part C population. That it's so, you know, sometimes it's not identified early enough.
Great. Question is, does our organization collaborate with the state early intervention dispute resolution office? And I can say that, of course, we are in contact with our early intervention TA partners, and sought out their information and their feedback in preparing these guides. Another question. Do you think that parents would be more inclined to file a complaint if they felt confident that they would have concerns successfully submitted? I think that parents who understand how complaints fit into the wider version, or the wider array continuum of dispute resolution options, can make informed choices about where if they have a particular dispute or a particular concern, what their options are available to them. It may be that if they have more information on complaints and due process hearings, but at the same time, as well as mediation, they can make a decision on what process might be best suited to address their concerns. Do you have anything to add to that, Miriam?
No, I think you said it very well. I think you said it correctly.
I think at this point we have addressed all of the questions here. Give me just a second to look through and make sure we have them all. There's been a request to post links in the chat, and we will certainly do that. Can we have a slide for? Well, thank you so much for joining us today. As I see no other, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I jumped too quickly. It looks like there is a question. The statement, information is neutral, is interesting because some can take that position. If information is shared, it will cause an uptake in the dispute resolution processes. Speaking as the director of the Center of Appropriate Dispute Resolution, I am of the opinion that information is important to share, and that holding information and not sharing it is a disservice when folks do have the right to do their dispute resolution processes available to them. And so if there are issues involved that people are in dispute over, or people have concerns, they should know how best to work through them. And having knowledge about mediation, written state complaints, and due process hearings is part of our mission under IDEA to make those available. And so it very well create an uptick in dispute resolution processes, but we are still encouraging early dispute resolution in all of the guides. So the idea is to address disputes in the best way appropriate to the concern. Another question, I just needed to wait a little bit longer, didn't I? Can Part C written state complaints address systemic issues just like under Part B written state complaints? It is my understanding that they can. I would encourage you to talk.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
That is a very good question.
So,
it's like a big question, but yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure, but I wish the answer is yes.
The answer, to the best of our knowledge, the answer is yes on that. Yes, Part C. Thank you. Part C can address systemic issues. Without any more questions? Miriam, you mentioned that immigrants are wary of going through the due process. What resources are available to help them?
Well, the first resource is to contact the parent center. As you know, there is at least one parent center in every state, and parent centers have staff most of them who speak, at least Spanish, I would say 99%, and many other languages too now. And they really help families that we help them, we guide them through the process. And if they have to go to due process, we provide with all the information they need. And so they are prepared. But as I said before, the numbers indicate, and the information that we have indicates that typically parents that are not documented, undocumented families, do not go that way. They do prefer mediation if they do something. Sometimes they do. They remain silent because they are afraid of all the issues that they could, all the consequences, they could really happen, harass them or something. So it's important that they feel empowered. The information is knowledge, and it's also empowerment, because it's about their children. It's about their outcomes. And typically when parents are engaged really early on as like Part C, they continue to be engaged during Part B, when all the years are coming when the children enter the school system. So it's really important when you have identified parent leaders who are really developing the skills to become parent leaders, to give them the hands and all this guides and information, and continue to develop and make them grow in leadership, so they can continue to become more aware of the rights when they evolve to the next step in Part B.
Thank you, Miriam. There is a question, are these guides useful for states who use Part B rules for Part C disputes? And the answer to that question is that we have developed two guides, one for states that have adopted Part C procedures, and one for states that have adopted Part B procedures for Part C complaints. So be sure that you have the appropriate guide for your state, and if you're not sure which state, what the rules are in your state, we have listed those on the website.
And they're also on the slides of this presentation. One of the slides has a list of if the state is a Part C or Part B.
As I see that there are no more questions at this time, we'll go ahead and end. Please know that you can contact me at CADRE, or you can contact Miriam if you have any questions. We are happy to provide additional information. Thank you so much for joining us today, and let us know what you think about this webinar, and also give us some feedback about the Part C guides. We would really appreciate hearing from you. So from CADRE and from SIPR, we wish you all a very happy autumn. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everybody.